She just wanted revenge on her ex with the Mafia boss. But the plan got out of control. She walked into that private club with a simple plan. One night to forget the pain, no names, no promises. But when his eyes found her at the bar, when his hand touched her waist with a firmness she didn't expect, she realized she had made the most dangerous mistake of her life. Because Dante Marchesi wasn't just any man. He was the boss. And he never let go of what belonged to him. Comment where you are watching from and subscribe to the channel, because this story is full of desire, danger, and a love that could cost everything. She walked into that private club with a simple plan. One night to forget the pain, no names, no promises. But when his eyes found her at the bar, when his hand touched her waist with a firmness she didn't expect, she realized she had made the most dangerous mistake of her life. Because Dante Marchesi wasn't just any man. He was the boss. And he never let go of what belonged to him. Comment where you are watching from and subscribe to the channel, because this story is full of desire, danger, and a love that could cost everything. Sofia Almeida never imagined that the worst night of her life would start with a bouquet of white roses. It was 7:43 p.m. when she walked into the apartment she had shared with Gabriel for 3 years. The roses were on the living room table, too perfect, arranged with that exaggerated care he always used for romantic gestures. The card was beside them, and she smiled even before opening it. Gabriel always left silly notes, declarations that made her roll her eyes and smile at the same time. But the smile died before it was fully born. Sorry, it wasn't planned. G. 5 words. Just 5 words to demolish 15 years of history. Sofia felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. Her hands shook as she held the card, the paper too thin, too fragile to carry the weight of this. She read it again, and again. As if on the 3rd time, the words would rearrange themselves and make sense. It wasn't planned. What? The breakup? The betrayal? She walked to the bedroom on autopilot. His drawer was empty. The closet had perfectly equal gaps where his shirts used to be. His toothbrush was gone from the bathroom. He had left. Simply gone. And she didn't even see it coming. Sofia let herself fall onto the edge of the bed, still holding the card. The silence in the apartment was deafening. There were no tears, no screaming. Just a huge, hollow emptiness pulsing in her chest like an open wound. 3 years living together. 5 years of dating before that. 8 years in total of plans, promises, futures drawn in late-night conversations. And all she had now was an apology note and a bouquet of roses that were already beginning to wilt. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from Camilla, her best friend since college. Sof, tell me you're not at home alone overthinking. Sofia almost laughed. Camilla knew her too well. I'm fine. Camilla's reply was immediate. Liar. You look like someone who's going to spend the entire night blaming yourself for something that is not your fault. Come with me. Now. Sofia looked around the empty apartment. At the roses, at the card, at the space where Gabriel should be but wasn't anymore. Where to? A place where you can forget that stupid men exist. Eclipse Club. I'll pick you up in 40 minutes. And don't give me any excuses about clothes, because you look beautiful just as you are. Sofia did not look beautiful just as she was. She was wearing tailored trousers and a white work blouse, her hair tied in a bun that was already starting to come undone. But 40 minutes later, she had changed into a black dress that Camilla insisted she wear. Simple, but tight in all the right places, and was sitting in the passenger seat of her friend's car, trying not to think too much. Do you know this place? Sofia asked when Camilla took an exit off the expressway she didn't recognize. I know people who know it. Camilla smiled sideways, that smile that always foreshadowed trouble. It's exclusive, chic, the kind of place where we can forget the outside world exists. Cam, I'm not in the right headspace to... Exactly why we're going. Camilla cut her off, eyes still on the road. Sofia, you spent the last 8 years being the perfect girlfriend, the straight-laced lawyer, the woman who does everything right. And in the end, he replaced you and left an apology note. So tonight you're not going to be any of those things. Tonight you're going to be just you. Sophia swallowed hard. There was a silent anger growing in her chest. Something hot and dangerous she had never felt before. Camilla was right. She had done everything right. Where had that gotten her? The Eclipse Club didn't look like much from the outside. A discreet door, no sign, on a side street in the city's upscale district. But when the bouncer, a man the size of a wardrobe, nodded at Camilla and opened the door, Sophia understood that this wasn't just any club. The music pulsed low, sensual, wrapping around everything like a second skin. The lighting was scarce, strategic, creating shadows and highlighting curves. There were beautiful people everywhere, dressed in expensive elegance, drinking cocktails that glowed under the bluish lights. The air smelled of expensive perfume, whiskey, and something undefinable. Power, perhaps. "Trust me," Camilla whispered in her ear, already pulling her toward the bar. "One night. Just one night for you not to be the responsible Sophia. Tomorrow you can go back to being whoever you want. But today you are free. Free." The word echoed in Sophia's mind as she sat on the bar stool. When was the last time she had felt free? The bartender, a man with light eyes and a professional smile, slid a drink toward her without her asking. "On the house for new faces," he explained with a wink. Sophia looked at the amber liquid, the bubbles rising slowly, hypnotic. She never drank without knowing what it was. But today she wasn't the usual Sophia. She lifted the glass to her lips. The taste was strong, slightly sweet, leaving a pleasant burn as it went down. She closed her eyes and for a second allowed herself to just feel. That was when she noticed. Someone was watching her. It wasn't the casual feeling of wandering eyes in a crowd. It was different, intense, purposeful, as if someone had decided she was the only thing worth seeing in the entire place. Sophia opened her eyes slowly and let her gaze wander through the club's gloom. It took a few seconds to find the source of that sensation. Mezzanine, VIP area, an isolated table, surrounded by men in suits who looked more like bodyguards than friends. And in the center, leaning back in a leather armchair as if it were a throne, was him. Sophia's heart jumped before her brain could process why. He was imposing. Not because of his height. She couldn't even measure it properly from that distance. But by the way he occupied the space, as if the air around him had to ask for permission to circulate. Dark suit, impeccable, the kind of cut that cost more than her rent. Black hair, slightly messy, as if he had run a hand through it in a moment of impatience. And his eyes, even in the shadows, she felt the weight of that gaze. He didn't look away. He didn't pretend to be looking at something else when she caught him staring. On the contrary, his lips curved into a half smile, slow, dangerous, like a predator that had just identified its prey. Sophia felt a shiver run down her spine. It wasn't fear. Or maybe it was, but mixed with something she couldn't name. Something hot. Forbidden. She should look away. Go back to talking to Camilla. Pretend she hadn't seen him. But she couldn't. And he knew it. Dante Marchesi never believed in destiny. He believed in strategy, in power, in absolute control over every variable of his own life. But when that woman walked into the Eclipse, the club he secretly controlled, something changed. She didn't belong in this place. That became clear in the first 5 seconds. The way she looked around, half lost, half fascinated. The way her friend had to pull her by the hand. She was different from the others. She wasn't there to be seen. She was there to escape something. And Dante recognized runaways. He had been one his whole life. Matteo, his right-hand man, said something beside him about numbers, territory, the meeting with the Irish next week. But Dante wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on her, on the curve of her neck when she turned her head, on the way her fingers gripped the glass before drinking. On the way, she closed her eyes for a second, as if trying to erase something from her mind. And then she saw him. The world stopped. Dante felt something tighten in his chest when her eyes met his. Brown, deep, carrying a mixture of fear and defiance that stirred something primal in him. She should have looked away. Any other woman would have. But she didn't look away. And in that moment, Dante Marchesi, the man who never lost control of anything, felt the reins slipping from his hands. Who is she? The question came out before he could filter it. Matteo followed his gaze and frowned. Never seen her before. Want me to find out? No. Dante stood up, adjusting his shirt cuffs, the movement calculated, almost lazy. I'll find out myself. Matteo knew that tone. It was the tone Dante used before closing a deal, before taking something he wanted. Boss, there's a meeting in... It'll have to wait. Dante walked down the stairs of the mezzanine with the tranquility of someone who knows the world revolves on his time, not the other way around. People moved out of his way without him having to ask. Some greeted him with respectful nods. Others looked away, knowing exactly who he was and what that meant. But the woman at the bar, she had no idea. And that intrigued him more than it should. Sophia saw when he stood up, saw when he started to come down, and panic began to rise in her throat when she realized he was coming toward her. Cam, she whispered. But her friend was distracted on her phone. The man approached like an inevitable storm. Every step measured, confident, as if he already knew exactly how this night was going to end. Sophia gripped her glass tighter, her heart beating so loud she was sure he was going to hear it. And then he stopped, right next to her. So close she felt the heat radiating from him and the scent. Wood, leather, and a subtle note that put her on alert. You shouldn't be here. His voice was deep, velvety, with an almost imperceptible accent she couldn't identify. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Sophia turned her head slowly, meeting his eyes for the second time. Up close, they were even more devastating. Dark as midnight, too intense, as if they could read every secret she carried. Sorry, she replied, her voice coming out steadier than she expected. I didn't know there was a personality dress code. His lips curved into a real smile this time. Slow, dangerous, beautiful, clever. He tilted his head, studying her as if she were a work of art in a museum. But it's not about that. It's about, you don't belong in this world. And you do? I am this world. It should have sounded arrogant, pretentious. But there was a raw truth in those words that sent a shiver across her skin. He held out his hand. Dance with me. It wasn't a request. Sophia looked at the outstretched hand. Large, with long fingers, an almost invisible scar on the knuckles. Hands of someone who always knew exactly what he wanted. She should say no. She should go home, cry over Gabriel, move on like a normal person would. But Camilla was right. Tonight she wasn't the responsible Sophia. And in that touch, something inside her changed. Silent, but definitive. The touch was intense. It wasn't just contact. It was as if every emotion in Sophia had woken from a deep sleep, lighting up with alertness, warning, life. His fingers wrapped around her hand with a firmness that wasn't aggressive, but conveyed absolute resolve, as if, in that instant, he had chosen to see her, truly see her. He led her to the dance floor before her brain could process the choice she had just made. The music changed. The sound became slower, more enveloping, the bass vibrating like a second heart hidden in the club's shadows. Other couples danced nearby, lost in their own worlds. But when he guided her to the center, when his hand found her waist with confidence, Sophia forgot anyone else was there. Only he existed. What is your name? His voice was low, deep, close to her ear because he had leaned in, stepping into her space with the confidence of someone who didn't need to ask for permission. Sophia hesitated. The logical part, the trained lawyer, calculating, used to measuring risks, told her to lie, to keep her distance, to protect her own name. But the other part, the wounded part, the part that still felt the cold weight of Gabriel's card in her chest, That part wanted to be honest. Wanted to be seen, even if just for one night. Sophia. He repeated the name slowly, as if testing every syllable. Sophia. Then he smiled, that half smile that made her heart race. Beautiful, classic, it suits you. And you? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Do you have a name or just an air of superiority? He laughed, a low, genuine laugh that she felt vibrating in the space between them. Dante. Dante. The name sounded familiar in a distant way, like something she should recognize but couldn't quite reach. Maybe it was the drink. Or maybe it was the way he held her. Firm, secure, close enough to make the rest of the world disappear. Dante, she repeated, testing the sound. Italian? By birth. Brazilian at heart. His fingers moved gently on her waist, not to pull her, but as if confirming she was there, present. And you, Sophia? What is a woman like you doing in a place like this? Forgetting. The answer slipped out without a filter. Too honest. Stuck too deep in the open wound. But instead of pulling back, Dante stood a few inches closer, enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence near her. There was no rush, no hidden agenda. There was presence. Strength. The feeling that nothing there could knock her off this newly discovered axis. Forgetting what? He asked, though his gaze said there was much more behind the question. His eyes roamed her face, lips, neck, eyes, as if memorizing every reaction. Someone not worth remembering. Then he is an idiot. It was so direct, so simple, that for the first time that night, Sophia felt like laughing. A real, alive laugh. You don't even know me. I don't need to. Dante tilted his head. He didn't touch her skin, but the proximity was enough for Sophia to feel the depth of his voice, low and firm. Any man who lets you go can only be an idiot. It should have sounded like a cheap line, a phrase handsome, dangerous men repeat without thinking. But there was something in the way he said it, a quiet conviction that made her heart skip a beat. Sophia couldn't find the words. So she just took a deep breath and let her body relax into the rhythm of the music, letting that moment exist without justifying anything. Dante's hand moved carefully up her back, not tracing her spine, but resting over the fabric as if needing to confirm she was there. It wasn't an invasion. It was a firm, silent presence, and Sophia allowed it. She closed her eyes, resting her head lightly on his shoulder. For the first time in hours, the knot in her chest began to loosen. Here, in the arms of a stranger, she wasn't the betrayed woman. She wasn't the one left behind. She was just someone being seen, truly seen. You're trembling, Dante murmured, his voice soft near her hair. She was, and she knew it wasn't because of the cold. I'm fine. Liar. But he said it softly, almost with humor. His hand returned to her waist, just to stabilize her, as if anchoring her in the present. Are you afraid of me? Sophia opened her eyes, pulling back just enough to face him. His eyes were dark, intense but not hostile. He seemed to be studying her, curious, attentive, as if seeking to understand something he couldn't yet name. Should I be? Dante didn't answer immediately. His gaze swept her face, a silent reading, but without crossing any lines. When he spoke again, his voice was even lower. Probably. Her heart sped up. But instead of retreating, instead of giving in to fear, Sophia did something she would never do on any other night. She placed her hands on his chest, feeling the firmness of the fabric beneath her fingers, and slowly moved them up to the back of his neck. The gesture was bolder than she intended to admit, and she saw surprise flash in his eyes for an instant. I don't scare that easily, she said, even though she knew that was the biggest lie of the night. Because she was terrified, but it was a different kind of fear. Unsettling, compelling, the kind that makes the mind wonder what comes next. Something changed in Dante's face. Amusement gave way to something more serious, deeper. His gaze became dense, impossible to decipher. His hand held her waist, making it clear he understood the challenge hidden in her words. He stood just close enough to eliminate any misunderstanding between them. "Careful, Sophia." His voice was a warning, and a promise. "You don't know who you're dealing with. Then show me." The words escaped before she could stop them. Bold. Unexpected. Almost unrecognizable even to herself. But there was no regret. Not when she saw the impact in his eyes. Not when she noticed his focus shift entirely to her. The smile Dante gave wasn't gentle. It was the smile of a man who recognizes he just found something rare. "You asked for it." Before she could process it, he was guiding her off the dance floor. Without urgency, but with a determination that left no room for doubt. His hand remained firm on her waist, a reminder that she had chosen to follow this path, and he was just leading. Sophia tried to understand where they were going. They passed the VIP area, past the bodyguards, who immediately stepped aside upon seeing Dante, until they reached a side staircase, darker, quieter, more private. "Dante, You told me to show you." He stopped at the top of the stairs, turning to her. His gaze, now darker, carried something intense, almost unfathomable. "So that is what I am going to do." He opened a door. An office, luxurious, silent, with dark wood panels, an impeccable mahogany desk, and bookshelves that looked more decorative than useful. But Sophia barely registered the room, because as soon as the door closed behind them, Dante guided her gently back against it. It wasn't rough, but it was absolute, as if that simple gesture defined the space, the moment, and everything that was about to happen. He placed his hands on either side of her face, blocking any escape, but without actually touching her. He stood close enough for her to feel his steady presence, charged with something she couldn't name. He didn't kiss her. Not yet. He just stayed there, studying every feature of her face, as if trying to decipher a rare puzzle, as if every detail was too important to ignore. "Last chance," he whispered. His thumb grazed her jaw lightly, in a gesture so unexpectedly soft it contrasted with the intensity surrounding them. "You walk out that door now, go back to your life, and forget I exist." Sophia felt her heart hammering in her chest. His scent, wood, leather, something compelling, filled her air. Logic told her to retreat. Logic always told her to retreat. But logic had also been Gabriel, and Gabriel had left her with a note. So instead of pulling away, Sophia lifted her chin, her eyes locked on his. "I'm not going anywhere." Something changed in Dante's face. The restraint broke. The mask of control fell for a second, enough for her to see the raw emotion he was hiding. And then he kissed her. It wasn't a casual kiss, nor calculated. It was deep, as if he had been drawn into that moment by something inevitable. He held her firmly, one hand sliding up to cup the side of her face, the other to the nape of her neck, making the moment last in a movement that spoke more of connection than technique. Sophia held onto his shoulders to keep her balance. The world seemed to fade, narrowing until only the strength of his presence existed. His scent, the intensity of the kiss stealing her breath and giving back something she thought she had lost forever. When Dante finally pulled away, they were both breathless. Not from exertion, but from the weight of what that kiss meant. And Sophia let go of her fears. There was no resistance, only impact. Their kiss was intense, deep, loaded with everything she had been trying to suffocate for the last few hours. It wasn't just a meeting of lips, it was an emotional release, an explosion of everything she thought she had already lost. Anger, hope, relief, shock, all mixed into a single gesture that left her unmoored. Her hands clung to his shoulders, seeking balance. The world faded for an instant, narrowing until only he existed. The moment hit her like something inevitable, as if it had been written since the moment their eyes met on the mezzanine. When Dante finally pulled back, they were both silent, taken by the raw intensity of what had just happened. Sophia's heart raced, and she didn't know what she should feel. Shame? Fear? Caution? But none of that came. There was only that new sensation, alive, pulsing, running through every part of her. Dante rested his forehead against hers, eyes closed, breathing deeply. "You have no idea what you just did," he murmured, his voice low, almost reverent. Sophia smiled, still dizzy from the proximity, still taken by the feeling that something inside her had changed forever. "Then show me." Dante opened his eyes. Something deep passed through them. Intensity, promise, will. His hands moved carefully along her back in a slow, firm gesture, as if trying to memorize every detail of that moment. But, for the first time that night, he hesitated. His eyes sought hers, silently asking if she wanted to continue. Sophia nodded. The change was immediate. Dante wrapped his arm around her shoulders, guiding her further into the office. There was no rush. There was intention. Their proximity gained a different weight, more intimate, more honest. He held her face with both hands, as if trying to keep her whole right there, in that instant. "You are extraordinary," he said, almost in a whisper, and for the first time, it didn't sound like an impulsive compliment, but a truth torn from him. He kissed her again, not with hunger, but with depth. A slow, intense kiss, heavy with meaning. A kiss that asked to be remembered. His hands moved up her back, holding her close. Sophia felt the firmness of his presence, the warmth, the unexpected safety. Every touch was deliberate, careful, as if he were trying to rebuild her from scratch. She ran her fingers through his hair, holding him there with urgency. Dante smiled against her lips, a brief, satisfied smile, like someone who had just confirmed something he already knew. "Stay with me tonight," he asked, his voice low, charged with emotion. Just tonight. She knew she should think, question, ask. But she did none of that, because deep down, she knew the truth. The same truth he didn't say out loud. That night had already changed everything. "Yes," she replied, almost in a breath. Dante closed his eyes for a second, as if that word had hit a vulnerable place inside him. When he opened them, his look was different, more intense, more decided. He embraced her, pulling her close again, because he already knew. Her yes wasn't just for that night. It was the beginning, even if she didn't know it yet. There were moments in life that defined everything. Sophia always believed she would recognize those moments when they arrived. Graduation, her first job, the day Gabriel asked her to be his girlfriend. Each one had come with that familiar feeling of this matters, but nothing prepared her for this. For Dante's presence so close, so intense, so impossible to ignore. For the way his fingers glided over her shoulders with an unexpected gentleness, as if he feared breaking her. For his gaze, dark, deep, attentive to every reaction, every breath, every fraction of a second. She should feel ashamed. She was sitting on the edge of a desk, her dress slipped off her shoulders, in front of a man whose last name she didn't even know. A man who kissed her, as if he had just claimed a territory that had never been his. But shame was the last thing she could feel. "You're trembling again," Dante murmured. His voice, low and raspy, carried something between concern and satisfaction. His fingers moved up the side of her neck, his thumb tracing her jawline in a calm, firm gesture. "Do you want me to stop?" Sophia almost laughed. Almost, because the question was absurd. He knew the answer. She saw it in his eyes, in the way his presence seemed to hold back a storm about to break. "No." The whisper came out soft, but unshakable. Something shone in Dante's gaze. Triumph, desire, and something deeper, quieter. "Then look at me." His voice wasn't loud, but it was impossible not to obey. "I want to see you, the real you." And she looked. In his eyes, Sophia saw intensity. She saw insistence. She saw something resembling care, a focus so absolute it made her heart skip a beat. No one had ever looked at her like that, as if she were the only thing that existed. Dante leaned in. His lips brushed her temple, moving down her cheek in light, almost reverent touches. They weren't full kisses. They were silent promises, messages he didn't need to put into words. "I don't do this," Sophia murmured, her own voice sounding distant, vulnerable. "I'm not that person." "What person?" Dante asked, his voice so close his breath sent a shiver across her skin. "The kind who leaves with strangers. The kind who—" Sophia couldn't finish. "Shh." He interrupted her with a gentleness that dismantled every defense she had. His hands framed her face firmly, guiding her gaze back to his. "Do you think I don't know? Do you think I don't see?" His eyes cut through every layer she had. And that was what made her so vulnerable. "You're running from something," he continued, his voice low, intimate. "Someone hurt you, and you came here trying to forget." Dante pressed his forehead against hers, their breathing mixing together. "But I won't just be a distraction, Sophia. I will be the memory that replaces everything that came before." It was an arrogant sentence, presumptuous, but it sounded like the truth, and the truth always hurt more than any lie. Sophia closed her eyes for a second, feeling the familiar sting of tears threatening to escape. Before they fell, Dante stopped them, kissing first one eyelid, then the other, with a delicacy that made her shudder. "If I make you feel anything tonight," he murmured, his voice deep, "it's not out of disrespect. It's because you're finally going to allow yourself to feel something real." And then he kissed her. But not like before. There was no rush. There was no veracity. It was slow, deep, almost reverent, as if he had decided to memorize every second of that moment. Sophia felt her body relax against his almost without realizing it. Her hands moved up his jacket, over the solid chest beneath his shirt, feeling the steady warmth of him. It was comforting and dangerous at the same time. Dante held his breath when her fingers touched the back of his neck. Such a small detail, but it made his muscles tense beneath her hands. His response to her touch was as intense as hers was to his. A low sound escaped him. Not a moan, but a ragged breath, charged with held-back emotion. His hands moved carefully along her back, finding her waist and guiding her a little closer to the edge of the desk, bringing them together in a firm, yet controlled movement. "Do you feel this?" His voice came out raspier, almost a whisper. "This is what you do to me." She felt it. But what shook her wasn't the physical intensity. It was the way he held her. With strength, yes, but with care, as if he were afraid of hurting her, and at the same time, afraid of letting her slip away. "Dante." The name came out like a spontaneous plea, and she didn't even know exactly what she was begging for. But he knew. In a natural, fluid motion, Dante lifted her slightly, effortlessly, just to bring her closer to him. Sophia reacted instinctively, her hands holding his shoulders, seeking stability. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was invasive. It was just proximity, raw, intense, inevitable. It wasn't when Dante guided her to the leather sofa in the corner of the office. It wasn't when he laid her there with a care that contrasted with the intensity of his gaze, nor when he hovered over her, creating a cocoon of presence, strength, and protection around her. It was when he stopped, when he took a deep breath, when he looked at her, as if he were about to cross a border. "Are you sure?" Dante's voice was tense, almost restrained, as if every second of waiting was a test for something inside him. Sophia reached up, her fingers tracing the sharp line of his jaw, feeling the stubble scratch softly against her fingertips. She pulled him closer, their faces separated only by the warm air between them. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." It was a lie, but in that moment, she needed to believe it. And Dante realized it, because he always saw everything. Instead of rushing, he slowed down. His hands slid down her arms until he interlaced their fingers, bringing her hands above her head in a gesture that didn't imprison. It anchored. His other hand moved up to her face, tracing the contour of her cheek, as if needing to memorize every detail. "Then give me everything," he whispered. "Fear, pain, truth, whatever you have. I want to feel you, completely." And that was where Sophia broke. Not with tears, not with resistance, but with emotional surrender, bare and irreversible. She nodded, her breath short, her heart beating so hard it seemed to echo between them. Dante's smile changed. It wasn't the dangerous smile from before. It was softer, more human, almost vulnerable. And then he showed her what it meant to be truly seen. Time ceased to exist. Sophia wouldn't be able to say later if it had been minutes or hours. The world outside that room disappeared. There was no club, no music, no pain left by Gabriel. There was only Dante. His attention was absolute. Every gesture, every touch on her face, every word spoken in Italian, Bella, Mia, Perfetta, seemed carefully thought out to reach her in places she didn't even know existed. He never looked away. Never. It was intense, but not impatient. Strong, but not aggressive. Present in a way she had never experienced. And layer after layer, her protections began to crumble. Old fears melted away. Emotional defenses collapsed. And in their place, something grew. Scary, deep, inevitable. Need. Not just physical. Emotional. The need to be accepted. To be understood. To be wanted. Entirely. "Look at me," Dante asked when she tried to close her eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. His hand held her face, firm but careful. "I want to be here with you, until the very last second." And she looked. She looked while her heart seemed to leap from her chest. She looked while every part of her trembled with the avalanche of emotions she couldn't name. She looked while she allowed herself to feel, perhaps for the first time in a long time. And Dante remained, holding her gaze, anchoring her, seeing everything she tried to hide. When Sophia finally took a deep breath again, her heart still raced with the echoes of the emotions that had swept through her. Dante pulled her close with care, keeping her steady, protected. "I told you," he murmured against her hair, his voice low, filled with something that mixed relief and certainty. It wasn't just going to be a distraction. She should feel ashamed, exposed, vulnerable. But what she felt was peace. An almost impossible peace after the day she had had. But there, in his arms, she found a different silence, one that didn't hurt. And for the first time, she allowed herself to rest there, to just feel. A strange, fragile, but real peace. Dante turned her onto her side, pulling her against his chest firmly. His arms wrapped around her with a possessiveness that should have made her uneasy, but for some reason she couldn't explain. Only made her feel safe, protected, as if nothing in the world could reach her there. "Stay." The whisper came against her forehead, not as a request, but as a need. Just a little longer, just stay. And Sophia stayed. Because there, wrapped in the arms of a man she barely knew, she finally understood a truth she had been trying to avoid all day. It wasn't about Gabriel. It never had been. It was about her. About allowing herself to feel again. About letting down the walls, even if it meant getting hurt later. And Dante. Dante was too real, in a way that cut through layer after layer until it touched her core. She closed her eyes and let his breathing lull her. She felt the steady heartbeat under her hand. Constant. Safe. Mesmerizing. Just tonight, she repeated to herself. Just today. But deep down, a part of her, the part he had awakened effortlessly, already knew the truth. One night with Dante Marchesi would never be enough. And when the sun rose, when logic returned and the world resumed its course, she would pay the price for this discovery. But now, wrapped in his warmth and the silent darkness of the office, Sophia allowed herself to believe the lie, that this could be just one night, that she could simply walk away and move on with her life, that the man holding her as if she were something precious would let her escape easily. Outside the office, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, Matteo watched the closed door with a somber expression. He had known Dante for 15 years. He had seen the boss with women of all kinds, beautiful, intelligent, powerful. None had lasted more than a few weeks. But the way Dante had come down from the mezzanine that night, the way his gaze locked onto that woman, this wasn't random, nor desire, nor a whim. Matteo knew that look. It was the same look Dante's father had when he saw his mother, the same look that had started silent wars, shifted alliances, destroyed borders, and cost lives. Obsession. An obsession, in their world, never ended well. Matteo took a deep breath, pulled out his phone, and typed quickly. Find out everything about her. Full name, job, family, history. I want to know who she's spoken to in the last few months. And I want it in an hour. Because if Dante Marchesi was obsessed, her world was about to be turned upside down. And she had no idea. Sophia woke up to the smell of coffee and an unsettling sense of danger. Her body reacted before her mind. The soft touch of expensive sheets against her skin, the firm weight of a male arm wrapped around her waist, the warmth of someone behind her, strong, present, real. And then memory returned like a wave. The club, Dante, his gaze, the intense moments that made the whole world disappear. Oh God. Sophia's eyes opened slowly. Her heart accelerated even before she understood where she was. Morning light streamed through enormous windows, much larger than any window in her modest apartment. The bedroom was spacious, elegant, minimalist, with furniture she had only seen in magazines, and she realized she was vulnerable, exposed. The shock hit her like a slap. Sophia tried to pull away, but Dante's arm reacted instantly, tightening gently around her, an automatic, almost protective gesture. His lips brushed the back of her neck, still sleepy, still dangerously close. Don't run, he murmured, his voice raspy with sleep vibrating against her skin. It's still early. Dante, I need to... Stay. He turned her with a natural movement, as if that gesture were already familiar, and suddenly she found herself facing him. Messy hair, stubble on his jaw, eyes half closed, and yet more intense than any memory from the night before. You need to stay. Panic rose in her throat like a fire. In the light of day, everything seemed even more absurd. She had gone with a stranger. She had trusted him. She had let herself be wrapped up by someone whose last name she didn't even know. What have I done? I need to go, she said quickly, overcome by anxiety. I have work. Camilla must be worried. I don't even know where. Breathe. Dante propped himself up on his elbow, his free hand holding her face with care. His touch was warm, firm, and the way he watched her, attentive to every micro-expression, made her breath even shorter. Sophia, breathe, she obeyed, without thinking. Your friend is fine. Matteo made sure she got home safely. His tone was calm, too calm. And yet, there was something there, something that sent a shiver down her spine. Who is Matteo? My right-hand man. Dante leaned in to kiss her forehead gently, a softness that made no sense considering everything she was feeling. And before you ask, yes, I had someone ensure your friend didn't drive drunk. You are the first person I've brought here in 5 years, Sophia. I wasn't going to let your night end in tragedy. 5 years. The weight of that fell on her. Why me? The question came out in a fragile whisper. Of all the people in that club, why me? He stayed silent for too long enough for her to feel the air grow heavier. Because when I saw you, he finally said, his voice low and charged with something that felt too dangerous to feel at 7 a.m. It was like waking up after sleeping for years, and I have no idea what that means. But I know I'm not ready to let go. Her heart beat so hard it almost hurt. Dante, this was just... No. The word cut through the air firmly. Not aggressive, but absolute. Don't say it was just one night. Don't lie to yourself. Or to me. But I don't know you. Her voice trembled. I know nothing about you. Not your last name. Not what you do. I just... Marchesi. The word dropped between them like a stone in a deep lake. Sophia blinked. What? My last name. Marchese. Dante watched her as if he could see every thought passing through her eyes. Dante Marchese. Marchese. The name echoed in her mind, familiar, unsettling, like an ancient shadow finally taking shape. She searched her memory. A news report? A case discussed at the firm? A whispered conversation in the hallway? And then the truth hit her like a violent impact. Marchese. The Marchese family. The backstage comments. Speculation about obscure deals, territory disputes, investigations that never went anywhere. The case the senior partner at the firm had refused months ago, saying only, "We don't deal with that kind of people." The word formed itself in her mind. Mafia. No. The sound came out as a horrified breath. Sophia instinctively recoiled, pulling the sheet up to cover her body, as if that could protect her from the avalanche of reality. No. No, no. Sophia, you are. You are. Her mouth opened and closed, unable to formulate the accusation. The room started to spin. The air vanished as if it had been ripped from the room. Dante sat up in bed slowly, hands raised in a calming gesture. But his eyes were alert, observant, assessing. Breathe. Just breathe. Don't tell me to breathe. Her voice burst out in the room, full of panic. She scrambled up so fast she almost fell, tripping on the sheet. I am a lawyer. I work with the law. And you are a businessman. Dante stood up too, without rushing, without panic. His natural composure only made Sophia feel worse. He grabbed a pair of sweatpants from the closet and put them on before approaching slowly, cautiously. I own clubs, restaurants, real estate. Liar. The tears finally escaped. Liar. I've heard the name. I know what it means. Rumors. His tone remained calm, but there was steel underneath, like iron hidden under velvet. People invent stories. They exaggerate. I don't deny my family had a complicated past. But me? I live by my work. Nothing illegal. Sophia wanted to believe. She wanted to with all her strength. But the lawyer inside her was screaming a red alert. I need to leave. Her voice cracked as she frantically looked for her dress. She found it thrown on an armchair and grabbed it with trembling hands. This should never have happened. Sophia, wait. He took a step, and she immediately stepped back. The expression of pain that crossed his face was real, cruel. Don't run from me. I shouldn't be here. Her voice was breaking, fragile. This was a mistake, a huge mistake. Look at me. He didn't try to get closer, but his voice came with that firmness that made her body react before her mind. Look at me and tell me that yesterday meant nothing, that it was empty, that it was a lie. Her eyes met his, and she almost crumbled, because it hadn't been a lie, not even a little. It had been the first real thing she had felt in a long time, but that didn't change the fact that there was an abyss between them. It doesn't matter what it meant. Every word felt like it was cutting a piece of her. I can't. We can't. This is impossible. Dante's expression changed. The softness disappeared. A cold, dangerous determination took its place. Nothing is impossible. His voice was low, deep, irrevocable. And you won't simply disappear from my life. Not after yesterday. You can't stop me. She forced firmness, even with a broken heart. I'm leaving, and you're going to let me. Do you really believe that? Sophia wanted to say yes. She wanted to believe he would let her leave without looking back. But his eyes said something else. They were the eyes of a man used to conquering what he desired, of someone who didn't surrender easily. A man driven by decisions that, once made, were unshakable. I don't belong in your world, she said, putting on her dress with shaking hands, as if the fabric could create a wall between them. And you don't belong in mine. Then I'll change worlds. The answer came simple, direct, unchangeable. Dante, I'll give you space. He took a step back, fists clenched at his sides, as if forcing himself not to touch her. I'll give you time. But don't ask me to forget. That is the only thing I won't do." Sophia's heart broke a little more. A part of her wanted to run into his arms, to sink into what she had felt the night before. But logic, always logic, spoke louder. "Goodbye, Dante." She turned before her courage faltered. "This isn't goodbye, Sophia." His voice reached her like a thread tied to her chest. "It's just see you later." She didn't look back. She couldn't. Because if she saw his face one more time, she knew she wouldn't have the strength to leave. So she walked. Through the massive bedroom. Through the silent hallway. Passing men in suits who watched her with neutral expressions, but watchful eyes. In the living room, Matteo was waiting. Tall, serious, with gray eyes, holding her car keys. "I'll take you home," he said simply. The ride was silent. Sophia looked out the window while the city rushed by in a blur. The tears fell on their own, too heavy to hold back. When the car stopped in front of her building, Matteo finally spoke. He won't give up. Sophia turned, surprised. His eyes were firm, hard, but there was something almost respectful there. Dante Marchesi doesn't give up on anything, especially what he truly feels. A pause. And he feels it truly. That's not his choice. Her answer came out weak, broken. Matteo almost smiled. A sketch, nothing more. "No, but it will be yours." Before she could ask what that meant, he was already out of the car, opening the door for her with quiet courtesy. Sophia stepped out. Her legs felt like paper. "Take care, Ms. Almeida," Matteo said before getting back into the car. Ms. Almeida. She had never told them her last name. They already knew everything. A cold shiver ran down her spine. But when she turned to face him, the car had already disappeared into traffic. Sophia went up to her apartment as if walking in a dream. She entered, saw the wilted roses on the table, and collapsed. There, on the living room floor, she let the weight of everything finally fall. In less than 24 hours, her life had been ripped from its place twice. Gabriel destroyed her. Dante made her feel alive again. And now, she didn't know who she was, nor who she could become. But she knew one thing. Matteo was right. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And the truth of that terrified her deeply. On the other side of the city, Dante stood on the penthouse balcony, watching the sun slowly rise over the buildings. The coffee was getting cold in his hand. Matteo approached. "She got home." "I know." "She's crying." Dante's jaw went rigid. "I know. You should have told her sooner. The truth would only have made her run faster." Dante didn't take his eyes off the city. At least now she knows what she feels. She knows it's real. And now? A smile crossed his face. Not happy, not light. Determined. Now I let her think she has control. That she can move on. He took a sip of the cold coffee. And when she discovers she can't, I'll be there. And if she really forgets you? Dante faced the horizon, firm. She won't. Because he had seen it in her eyes. The same fire that was already burning inside him. And fire like that doesn't go out. It consumes. Until only ashes remain. Or love. 3 days. Sophia managed to keep up the facade for exactly 3 days. She woke up at the usual time, took cold showers to wash away the memories that insisted on returning, put on her suit like it was armor, went to the office, completed every task on autopilot, and pretended her life was still normal, that her world hadn't been turned upside down. But at night, in the silent apartment, the mask fell. Gabriel's roses had gone into the trash the same day. But the memories of Dante? Those remained like invisible marks, on her body, in her chest, in her mind. His voice whispering in Italian. The way his presence seemed to fill every space. The intensity with which he made her feel alive. "You look terrible," Camilla declared on Wednesday, walking into the office with 2 coffees and the look of someone who wouldn't accept excuses. "And don't even try to blame work. I know you." Sophia kept her eyes on the contracts spread across the desk. I'm fine. Liar. Camilla took the chair across from her and pushed one of the coffees toward her. You disappeared from Eclipse on Friday. Didn't answer my calls until Saturday afternoon. And now you look like you've seen a ghost. More like someone who left a part of herself behind, Sophia thought. It was just a tough night, she murmured, forcing a tired smile. Gabriel. The breakup. You know. Camilla raised an eyebrow, entirely unconvinced. No, that's not a heartbreak face. That's the face of someone running from something. A pause. Or someone. Sophia's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her voice steady. I don't know what you're talking about. The man from the mezzanine. Sophia froze. I saw when he came down, Camilla continued, her tone lower now. I saw you leaving together. Then a huge guy put me in a car and said you were safe, and that I should go home. She crossed her arms. So, friend, what happened? Sophia opened her mouth, closed it. How to explain the inexplicable? How to describe someone like Dante Marchesi and the devastating impact he had? It was a mistake, she managed to say, feeling the tension tighten her voice. A huge mistake. And it can't happen again. A mistake? Camilla leaned forward, eyes wide. Sophia, that man looked at you as if the world had stopped. I never saw Gabriel look at you that way. Never. The truth hit Sophia like a blow to the chest. Gabriel had never looked at her as if she were essential. He had never conveyed certainty, intensity, absolute focus. But Dante, he had. And that was exactly what made everything so dangerous. He is dangerous, Cam. Sophia pressed her temples, trying to push away the headache. Dangerous in a way that I can't, that we can't, be near. Dangerous how? Sophia opened her mouth to answer, but her secretary appeared at the door. Ms. Almeida? A delivery arrived for you. Delivery? Sophia frowned. I didn't order anything. But the secretary had already left, and a messenger walked in carrying a massive arrangement of flowers. White lilies, elegant, expensive, impossible to ignore. Sophia's stomach dropped. Wow. Camilla whistled softly. Someone is apologizing in style. But Sophia already knew this wasn't an apology. It was a statement. With trembling hands, she took the small card hidden among the lilies. You can run as much as you want. I'll be here when you get tired of running. D. The handwriting was firm, unshakable, exactly like him. Who is D? Camilla leaned in to peek, but Sophia closed the card too quickly. No one. No one who sends $300 flowers to your office? Camilla raised an eyebrow. Soph, you're hiding something from me. Sophia was hiding everything. Absolutely everything. Because if she said it out loud, if she confessed what that night had been, it would stop being an emotional accident. It would become real, untouchable, irreversible. And she needed it to be the opposite. Something to bury, to forget. Even though her body screamed the opposite every time she tried to convince herself of that. I need to get back to work, Sophia murmured, looking away. Camilla watched her for a few long seconds before sighing. All right, but when you're ready to talk, I'm here. Always. When the door closed, Sophia collapsed back into her chair, eyes fixed on the lilies. 3 days. She had managed to avoid Dante for 3 days, and he had just reminded her that he hadn't gone anywhere. The flowers kept coming. Thursday. Rare orchids, accompanied by a short card. Breathe. Friday. An arrangement of wildflowers, untamed, with another note. You are stronger than you think. Saturday. Lilies again. And this time the message hit too deep. I am running too, from myself. Sophia tried to return every delivery. She tried to block the number that sent text messages that were too short, too accurate, too disturbing. But the gifts came without a return address, without an origin, without a chance to trace. And the words, they cut through any defense she tried to build. The following Monday, Sophia arrived at the office determined. Focus, breathe, move on. Until she saw the car. A black Maserati, parked exactly in front of the building. Tinted windows. No movement. But she felt it. Deep in her chest. In the nerves that suddenly woke up. She knew who was there. Sophia lifted her chin, crossed the sidewalk, and entered the building without looking sideways. But when she reached the lobby and risked a glance through the glass, she saw his silhouette reclined in the seat, motionless, waiting, just like he promised. Dante was losing his patience. He had given space. He had allowed her to breathe. He had respected, with almost superhuman effort, her request for time and distance. He had limited himself to flowers, short messages, and silent presence. But 10 days was too much. "How long has she been ignoring you?" Matteo asked from the passenger seat, his voice heavy with amused irony. 10 days, 7 hours, and... Dante checked his watch. 43 minutes. Matteo let out a sigh, almost laughing. "You're counting." "I am." "You're fixated." Dante kept his eyes fixed on the door of the building where he knew Sophia had just entered. Jaw locked, breathing controlled. The decision already made long before this moment. "I am," he said simply. And there was no shame, doubt, or hesitation in the answer. Only certainty. Brutal. Inevitable. Irreversible. "I am." Dante saw no reason to deny it. Obsession didn't even come close to what he felt. It was something else, a raw, visceral need. As if every hour away from her opened cracks he could no longer control. "She won't give in easily," Matteo commented, analyzing the tablet with his usual cold calm. "The background check shows she's determined, ethical, and too stubborn to get involved with someone complicated like you. Too late." Dante's smile held no humor. "She's already involved. She just doesn't want to admit it. And if she really doesn't come back?" The question hung in the air, heavy with threat. Dante closed his eyes for an instant, letting the memory of their night cut through everything. Her gaze, the emotional surrender, the way she allowed the barriers to fall. None of that was imagined. None of that was accidental. She will come back. It wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. Because she feels the same. She just needs to stop fighting it. "Boss," Matteo started. "Maybe you should consider that." Dante raised his hand, interrupting. Because Sophia was walking out of the building. Noon. Lunchtime. She was talking on her phone, distracted, bag hanging from her shoulder. Hair tied in a quick bun, dark sunglasses hiding her eyes. But Dante didn't need to see them. He would recognize that woman anywhere. By the way she walked, by her posture, by her silent strength. His. Dante got out of the car before reason could hold him back. Sophia felt his presence before she saw him. The air seemed to change. Heavier, more alive, more dangerous. She looked up, and there he was. Dante Marchesi, impeccable in a dark gray suit that seemed tailored to intimidate. Crossing the street with that quiet confidence that made strangers instinctively step aside, as if he were an inevitable force of nature. Her heart raced. Her breathing sped up. No, not here. Not like this. But he was already close, and running would be acknowledging that he had a power she didn't want to admit. So Sophia stood firm, squared her shoulders, took off her glasses. Dante. Sophia. The name came out as if he had waited days for that moment. He stopped in front of her, too close but still respecting the invisible line. His eyes examined her in silence, attentive to every micro-expression. "Are you okay?" "I'm great." "Lie. A lie too fragile." "What are you doing here?" "Trying to talk to a very stubborn woman who insists on pretending I don't exist." "I'm not ignoring you. I'm moving on." Another lie. He saw it. Liar. The tone was soft, almost affectionate. "Did you get the flowers?" "I did, and I returned 3 of them." "I know." Dante lifted the corner of his mouth. "That's why I sent others. Dante, have lunch with me." She blinked, surprised, almost losing her breath. "What?" "Lunch. With food. And conversation." He tilted his head, that almost smile appearing again, the one that always shook her ground. "You're going to eat anyway. Eat with me." "No." "Why?" "Because this changes nothing." Sophia swallowed hard. "What happened between us was a mistake, and I don't want to repeat it." His expression changed. The softness vanished. The air around them seemed to grow dense. "Look into my eyes." He took a step closer, not touching, but present. A presence that dominated the space. "And tell me you feel nothing right now. Tell me seeing me doesn't affect you. Tell me you haven't thought about me since the moment you walked out of my life." Sophia tried. Opened her mouth. Nothing. Because his scent, warm wood and spices, surrounded her. Because his eyes were impossible to face for too long. Because everything inside her screamed the same truth she tried to hide. "That's what I thought," Dante murmured. His thumb grazed the line of her jaw lightly, a touch almost non-existent, but one that burned like a deep brand. "You can try to run, Sophia, but you can't run from what you feel." "It doesn't matter." Her voice cracked. "We can't. You are." "Say it." The challenge was there, in his eyes. "Say what you think I am. Criminal, danger, trouble." But in that moment, in that gaze, all she could see was the man who had cared for her with an intensity no one else ever had. "Impossible," she whispered. Dante smiled, not with victory, with pain. "Nothing is impossible, just difficult." He stepped back slightly, giving her space. "I won't press. I promised space, and I'll give it. But Sophia," she looked up, even though it hurt, "when you stop running from yourself, I'll be here, no matter how long it takes." And then he turned and walked away, without looking back, leaving Sophia there, trembling, broken, and with the terrible feeling that she was making a mistake she couldn't undo. Because finally, she understood. It wasn't Dante she was running from. It was the version of herself he had awakened. She didn't see the other car, the black sedan parked 3 spots behind the Maserati, nor the 2 men inside, nor the raised phone taking photos, nor the recorder turned on, capturing every word. "Confirmed," said one of the men into the phone. "Dante Marchesi is involved with a civilian. Lawyer, Sofia Almeida." Pause. "Yes, sir. It looks serious. She is the weak point." On the other end of the line, Viktor Sokolov smiled. Finally. After 5 years of looking for a crack in Marchesi's armor, he had found it. And he was going to use it to the end. Sophia didn't realize she was being watched until Wednesday. At first, there were just details that could have been coincidences. The same black car she had seen on Monday morning reappeared on Tuesday night. A hooded man was always at the same cafe where she bought her cappuccino after work. That unsettling feeling that eyes were following her every step. "You're imagining things," she tried to convince herself. "Just paranoia." But when she saw the same sedan for the 3rd time, parked in front of her building at 6 a.m. on Wednesday, her instinct screamed. Something was wrong. With trembling hands, she grabbed her phone. There was only one unsaved number she had been speaking to for the past 2 weeks. "I'm being followed." The answer came in seconds. "Where are you?" "At home. There's a black car parked here. It's been 3 days. The phone rang before she could think. The name on the screen said simply, "D." Sophia answered, her heart racing. "Lock the door." Dante's voice was different, firmer, tenser, the kind of control that made her blood run cold. "Now, Sophia. Lock everything." "Dante, what?" "Do as I say." The tone was impulsive, urgent. Immediately after, he took a deep breath and softened his voice slightly. "Please, just lock everything and stay away from the windows." Sophia ran to the door, turning the key and sliding the chain. Her hands were shaking so much the phone almost fell. "Done. It's locked." "Good." She heard car noises and voices in the background. Matteo speaking quickly. "I'm 15 minutes away. Stay on the line with me, understood?" "Dante, you're scaring me." "I know. I'm sorry." His breathing was heavy, as if he were running. "But I need you to trust me right now. Just for today." "Can you do that?" Sophia peeked through the gap in the curtains. The sedan was still there. 2 men inside. And one of them was looking directly at her building. Panic rose brutally. "Sophia." His voice returned firmly on the phone. "Breathe. Are you breathing?" She wasn't. She forced air into her lungs in short, trembling gasps. "That's it. Keep breathing. I'm coming." "Who are these people?" Her voice came out sharp, taken by fear. On the other end of the line, silence. Too long. "Dante?" When he answered, the word weighed between them like lead. "Enemies." His voice was low, heavy. "And they found out about you." Sophia's world seemed to tilt on its axis. No. No, no, no. Sophia felt her legs weaken and had to lean against the wall. "You said your life was clean. You said you were out of trouble. And I am." His voice exploded. But Dante immediately took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "I am clean, Sophia. But my past. Some people can't accept change. They don't accept that someone turned the page, and they look for weak points." His tone softened, pained. "And you ended up becoming my weak point." The words should have sounded romantic. But for her, in that moment, they only seemed dangerous. "I didn't ask for this." The tears came fast, hot, uncontrolled. "I didn't ask to be dragged into this mess, Dante. I just wanted peace." "I know." His voice became low, firm, full of regret. "And I will fix everything. I promise. But right now, please, just stay where you are. Do not open the door for anyone but me." Sophia slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, the phone pressed against her ear like a lifeline, and waited. The longest 15 minutes of her life. Meanwhile, Dante drove as if every second were an eternity. "Matteo, report," he said with a sharp voice, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. 2 men. Car used in other surveillances. No clear identification. Matteo typed on the laptop beside him. "They know where she lives, where she works, and they've already taken photos." Dante felt that kind of silent anger that comes from deep within the chest like fire. How many men do we have available? 8 are already nearby. 6 more on the way. I want surveillance on her at all times. I want to know if someone breathes near her. Already organized. Matteo closed the laptop and looked at his friend. "Dante, if you approach her publicly, you're taking a huge risk. If I don't approach, she stays vulnerable. It's not a choice." He accelerated, running a yellow light by a thread. The only thing that matters now is keeping her safe. He had promised to give space. He had promised to respect her time. But that was before outsiders started circling her life. The rules had changed. The knock on the door made Sophia jump from the floor. "It's me." Dante's voice echoed from the other side. "Open up, amore." Sophia ran to the door, trembling hands struggling with the lock. When she opened it, Dante was there. Rumpled suit, messy hair, wild eyes full of pure fear and relief. Without thinking, he pulled her inside, closed the door behind them, and wrapped her in his arms. Strong, urgent, as if he needed to feel she was real. "Are you okay? Did anyone speak to you? Did they do anything? Try to get close." The questions came out fast, rushed, his warm breath against her neck. He held her as if he had found something he thought he had lost forever. "No, I saw the car and..." Sophia couldn't finish. Her voice failed, and she broke down, crying against his chest. All the accumulated fear finally breaking the barriers. Dante held her immediately, one hand firm on the back of her neck, the other wrapping around her waist with desperate care. I know, Bella." His voice was low, urgent, full of a concern that left any deeper emotion bare. "Everything is fine now. I'm here." He covered her in soft kisses, on the top of her head, her face, her forehead, trying to calm her with every touch. Sophia pulled back just a few inches, enough to look at him with tear-filled eyes. Why Dante? Why me? The pain that crossed his face was devastating. Because I was selfish. His voice came out hoarse, heavy with guilt. I saw you and I wanted you. And I didn't think about how that could expose you. How some people could use you to get to me. He wiped her tears with his thumbs, guilt weighing in every word. And now you're paying for my mistake. I just wanted a normal life. Her voice was a fragile whisper. A quiet life. I know. Dante rested his forehead against hers, eyes closed in a silent plea for forgiveness. And I will give that back to you. I will fix everything. But now, when he opened his eyes, there was something new there. Pure, firm, overwhelming determination. Now you need to stay with me. What? Your house isn't safe at the moment. Your work isn't either. He walked to the window, pulling the curtain slightly. The car was gone, but he knew that meant little. They know your schedule. They know where you might be. And they can use that. So what do I do? Panic returned. Do I hide? Give up my entire life? No. He turned back to her, the intensity of his gaze taking all the air from the room. You come with me. Stay under my protection. And I guarantee nothing, absolutely nothing, touches you. Sophia let out a fragile, almost hysterical laugh. You want me to move in with you? With the man who started all this? That's madness. I know. He didn't try to deny it. But it's the only way to keep you safe until this blows over. You have no idea what some people are capable of to hurt those I try to protect. And if I say no, then I put security on you 24 hours a day. He said it without hesitation. I prefer you angry and safe than independent and vulnerable. Sophia's legs felt weak. She fell onto the sofa, trying to process everything. This wasn't a fantasy. It was real. And do I have a choice, Dante? Her voice came out almost inaudible. He knelt before her, taking her hands carefully. There is always a choice. His eyes were a request and a command at the same time. But some choices bring consequences I won't let you bear alone. Come with me, just until everything is resolved. And how long will this last? I don't know. Hard honesty. Days, weeks. But I swear I will fix it. Sophia looked at their joined hands, so different. Hers, small, delicate. His, strong, marked, used to a world she didn't know. If I do this, she said slowly, looking up into his eyes, you tell me the whole truth, without hiding anything. I want to know who you really are. Something darkened in his gaze. Fear, perhaps. But he nodded. Everything. I promise. An hour later, Sophia was in his penthouse, with a hastily packed suitcase beside her, staring at the illuminated city below. Matteo had organized everything. Different cars, different routes, no one following. Coffee? Dante appeared beside her, offering a cup. She took it automatically. You promised the truth. I know. Then speak. Who is this man? Why does he think hurting me hurts you? Silence. Long. My father led a dangerous organization. His voice was neutral, but the emotional weight was clear. I grew up inside it. I was prepared to continue it. But when he died, I got out. I promised my mother I would build something clean. Did you succeed? It took years. I sold everything that was dirty, created legitimate companies, paid debts, financial and moral. He looked up at her. I'm not perfect, Sophia, but I don't live in that world anymore. And this man, Victor, he thinks me leaving was a sign of weakness. Dante stared at the darkness beyond the window. He spent years trying to get to me, and now he thinks he found a breach. He turned his gaze back to her. You. Sophia felt the weight of the truth fall on her shoulders. So I'm bait. No. He stepped closer, holding her face. You are important to me. And some people use anything to hurt those they want to strike. But I won't let that happen. His eyes burned. I will protect you, Sophia. With everything I have. You are important to me. Dante moved closer slowly, holding her face with both hands, as if she were something he feared losing. And some people will try to use that, but they won't succeed, because I will protect you with everything I am. Even if it means going back to the world you left behind? The question came out low, heavy, full of layers she couldn't even name. Dante didn't hesitate for a second. Even if it means facing everything again. It was simple, direct, dangerous, but not because of violence, because of the feeling. And in that instant, Sophia saw what had always been there. His intensity, the protective instinct, the man who carried shadows but fought not to let any of them touch her. And instead of fear, she felt safety, because that man, complicated, imperfect, impossible, was looking at her as if she were the only person who mattered. Maybe it was madness. Yes, but it was her madness now. Okay, she whispered. Dante's eyes widened slightly. Okay, I'll stay. She lifted her chin, firm. Under your rules, under your protection. But when this is all over, when I'm safe, we are going to talk, seriously, about this, about us. The smile that appeared on his face held no arrogance. It was real, relieved, almost vulnerable. We are everything, Sophia. He pulled her close carefully, kissing her in a different way. Not possessing, not claiming, but honoring. Everything that matters. And Sophia allowed herself to believe. At least for today. Sophia woke up alone. The other side of the bed was cold, a painful contrast to the constant warmth she had found there over the last 4 nights. She ran her hand over the sheets, as if she could recover a trace of him. His touch, the silence in which Dante wrapped her every night. 4 days in the penthouse, 4 nights in his arms. They hadn't touched each other again, not like that. They both knew that if it happened again, it would change everything. It wouldn't be impulse anymore. It would be a choice. It would be definitive. But Dante always held her while she slept. Always. As if he feared she might disappear by dawn. And Sophia let herself stay there, enveloped, allowing, for the first time in her life, someone to anchor her. But the morning brought reality. She put on one of his robes, too big, smelling of woodsy soap and coffee, and left the room. The sound of low voices echoed down the hall. Short, tense conversation. The office door was ajar. She shouldn't listen. But she did. We can't wait anymore. Mateo's voice was grave. Victor sent a message yesterday. He knows she's here. Silence. And? Dante's voice came low, cold. And he wants a meeting. Just the 2 of you. It's a trap. It wasn't a question. Of course it is. Mateo exhaled. But he made it clear. If you don't go, the next target is her family. Parents. Brother. The floor seemed to disappear beneath Sophia's feet. Family. The most precious name she had. And now they were in danger because of her. Something broke inside the office. The dry sound of glass hitting the wall. Then, dense, absolute silence. Does he really think I'm going to fall for that? Dante asked, his voice charged with a control that seemed about to snap. I think he knows you have no choice, Mateo replied. If something happens to her family, she will never forgive you. And he knows that. Sophia didn't realize when she took a step back, nor when she leaned against the wall. She only felt her heart beating too fast, too painful. The door opened suddenly. Dante was standing there, breathing deeply, his eyes meeting hers in a second that felt like an impact. He was wearing only sweatpants and a t-shirt, and for the first time, Sophia saw the raw truth. He hadn't slept. Not really. All those nights holding her, he had only been pretending to rest. How much did you hear? There was no anger in his voice. There was exhaustion. Enough. Sophia took a step forward. He threatened my family, Dante. He closed his eyes. His breathing faltered for an instant. The only sign of weakness she had ever seen in him. I will fix it. How? Sophia walked into the office, ignoring Mateo's sharp look. How are you going to fix this? If you go, you could be ambushed. If you don't, my family becomes a target. Where is the way out? The options. Dante opened his eyes, and she saw in them something dangerous and totally human at the same time. An almost irrational, almost fierce determination. Are for me to do what I've always done. Think faster. Act better. This isn't a game. Her voice cracked. These are lives, Dante. Mine, my family's, and yours. He crossed the office as if drawn by a magnet, holding her face between his hands, his gaze diving into hers. I won't die. He spoke slowly, every syllable an oath. And your family won't be touched. That is my promise. You can't promise that, Sophia whispered, not in defiance, but in fear. I can. And I am promising. He pulled her close carefully, his forehead resting against hers, as if that touch were a silent pact. Trust me, Sophia. Just one more time. Please. And God help her, she trusted. Against all logic, against all fear, she trusted that man like she had never trusted anyone. What are you going to do? Dante hesitated, just a second, before glancing toward Matteo. Better you don't know. No. Sophia stepped back, eyes stinging. You promised the truth, the whole truth. So tell me, what are you going to do? A muscle ticked in his jaw. Matteo raised his hands in silent surrender, understanding her request before Dante even answered. He left the office without a word, closing the door. Now it was just the two of them. Dante walked to the window, like someone needing to organize thoughts before speaking. Hands went into his pockets, shoulder tense, his whole body carrying an ancient weight. I'm going to the meeting. Dante, but not alone. He turned to her, his gaze firm, lucid, decided. Matteo and the team will be positioned. Nothing rash, nothing impulsive. Just strategy. Honesty hung in the air, heavy. And if he tries anything, Dante completed, his voice low and deep, I will end the threat. Fast. Sophia felt her chest tighten. It wasn't the words themselves. It was the implication. The risk. The kind of danger she barely understood. And if it doesn't work? Her voice came out fragile, almost childlike. And if he's faster? More prepared? He won't be. You don't know that. Her hands were shaking. Dante, I'm serious. I know. He took 2 steps toward her, but this time there was no threat, only desperation. I know because now I have something to lose. Something I never had before. He held her face between his hands, thumbs soft on her cheeks. You. The name came out like a confession. Before you, it didn't matter. Living or not living. It was all the same. But now? He kissed her. Not with hunger, but with devotion, as if sealing a vow. Now I have everything to lose. He rested his forehead against hers again. And I won't lose. Not you. The tears finally broke through. Sophia grabbed his shirt like someone holding onto a plank in a rough sea. I can't stand the idea of you not coming back. The phrase came out between sobs. I know it's crazy. I know it's fast, but I can't take it, Dante. He kissed her before she could finish. An urgent, almost desperate kiss. A kiss that said everything both were afraid to speak. When they pulled apart, they were breathless. If I come back. When you come back, Sophia corrected, firm. When? Something melted in his gaze, softening every line of his face. When I come back, he repeated. We stop running, both of us. No excuses, no fear, no doubt. We try what? She whispered. This. He touched her chest, then his own. Us. Everything that this means. Sophia nodded, because she couldn't speak. Just feel. He pulled her into the embrace again, strong arms wrapping around everything in her that trembled with fear. And there, in that cold morning light, they stood in silence, holding each other, memorizing, preparing for what was to come. The meeting was set for 11 at night, an old warehouse near the port, supposedly neutral ground as Victor had demanded. No weapons, he had said. Neither of them believed that. But Dante accepted anyway, because that was the only way to end this. Take the vest, Matteo insisted one more time, holding the bulletproof vest as if it were an essential part of his skin. This is non-negotiable. Dante took the vest and put it on. He didn't argue. He didn't bargain. It had been years since he last wore one, but his body remembered, like someone returning to a place they never really left. The training, the coldness, the ability to shut off emotions and act with precision. It all came back to Dante like a second skin. Sophia stays here, he instructed, discreetly checking the gun in the holster hidden at his back. Locked in. 2 guards at the door, 4 more in the building. Already organized. Matteo checked his own equipment efficiently. Boss, are you sure? No. The answer was honest, direct. But it's the only option left. You could run, start from scratch in another country. You could disappear. Matteo insisted, without judgment. For a brief second, Dante imagined it. He and Sophia far from everything. Maybe a beach, maybe a small town. Normal life, simple routine, safety. But it would be temporary. Victor would never give up. And living in hiding, always looking over his shoulder, that wasn't living. Especially not for Sophia. No. Dante adjusted his jacket over the holster, his face set. I end this today, one way or another. Sophia was sitting on the sofa, legs curled up, when Dante entered the room for the last time before leaving. He stopped at the door, just looking, memorizing every detail of her loose hair, the way she bit her lip when she was nervous, the strength and vulnerability mixed in her gaze. You look handsome, she said, voice choked. And it was true. Impeccable black suit, firm posture, a man who exuded power and control. And you look beautiful, he replied, approaching. She was wearing one of his shirts, leggings, nothing planned, but to him she was perfect. Real, human, the woman he chose to love. He knelt before her and held her hands, firm but gentle. I need you to stay here. No matter what happens, no matter what you hear, stay. Do you understand? Dante. Sophia. The name came out as a request. Promise me. She met his eyes, and for the first time saw fear. Not fear of the situation. Fear of leaving her. I promise, she whispered, but you promise too. Promise you'll come back. I promise. He brought her hands to his lips, kissing each finger with devotion. I promise I'll come back. And when I do, I'll give you everything you deserve. Peace. Safety. A normal life. I don't need any of that. Tears streamed down. I just want you. Something softened in his face. Dante pulled her into a kiss. Deep, soft, full of meaning. A kiss of promise. When they separated, he rested his forehead on hers. I love you. The words came out low, intense. I know it's soon. I know it seems crazy. But I love you, Sophia Almeida. And I'm coming back. Because living without you isn't living. Sophia couldn't answer in words. So she kissed him, pouring everything she felt into that gesture. Come back to me. Please. Dante stood up, breathed, and at the door, looked at her one last time. When I come back, we start for real. No fear, no past. Just us. Just us, she repeated with a fragile voice. Then he left, and Sophia crumbled, praying to any force that might be listening. Please, bring him back. Please. The warehouse was exactly as Dante expected. Dark, silent, charged with tension. Viktor Sokolov was waiting in the center, flanked by 4 men. Weapons visible. Clear intimidation. Dante walked in alone. Empty hands, relaxed posture. But his body prepared, every fiber alert. Marchese. Victor's smile was thin, artificial. You came. You brought innocence into this. You left no alternative. Ah, yes, the little lawyer. Victor walked around him like someone savoring his own power. Beautiful, Very beautiful. I understand why you lost your head. Choose your next words carefully. Dante's voice was low, precise. Victor laughed, but the glint in his eyes was cruel. You're not that ruthless successor anymore. Now you're a businessman. Civilized. Don't test me. Then let's get to the point. Victor stopped in front of him. You have two choices. Give me half your territories or tomorrow your girlfriend receives a message. Maybe her father suffers an accident. Maybe her brother. I'm still deciding. Tension boiled in the air. Dante moved in a single motion, fast and controlled. The gun left the holster and pointed straight at Victor, without a tremor. You don't touch her, Dante said, his voice so cold it burned. Nor her family. Don't even think about it. Victor lifted his chin, but fear appeared for a second. A sufficient second. Shoot, he provoked, and my men react. If it's for her, Dante took a step forward, firm. I accept the risk. The silence was so dense it seemed to have weight. Then Matteo's voice echoed in his hidden earpiece. Boss, police. 3 minutes. Police. Victor realized it at the same time. I have lawyers. Dante smiled, cold and calm. You have a list of charges waiting for you. Sirens started in the distance. Victor took a step back, defeated, furious. This isn't over, Marchese. Yes, it is. Dante lowered the gun without holstering it. Now justice deals with you. I'm going home, to the woman I love. Without looking back, he walked out of the warehouse, alive, whole, because he had promised. And Dante Marchese always kept his promises. Sofia was on the balcony when she heard the door open. It had been 3 hours. 3 hours that felt like 3 lifetimes. 3 hours pacing the living room, staring at her phone endlessly, praying silently to any force that might hear her. When the key turned in the lock, her world froze, and then raced. She ran, without thinking, without breathing, driven only by the urgent need to see, to confirm with her own eyes. And there he was, Dante, standing in the entryway, alive, whole, exhausted, but there. His gaze met hers, and in that instant, he looked like a man who only kept breathing because he knew he would come back to her. You came back, Sofia whispered, her voice breaking, tears falling before she even realized it. You came back. I promised. His voice was low, raspy, a mix of relief and weariness, but real. So real. Sofia threw herself into his arms, and Dante wrapped her up immediately, holding her tightly, as if he needed to confirm for himself that she was flesh and bone. She felt the pressure, the embrace, the weight of him, and clung to him with everything she had. I thought that... The words vanished, choked by sobs. I know, amore. I know. Dante buried his face in her hair, breathing as if he were coming back to life. But it's over. It's over. She pulled back just enough to see him, to touch his face with trembling hands. Victor? He's in custody. His voice was firm now. Enough evidence, warrants, everything aligned. He can't touch you anymore. Or your family. His eyes told the truth. Dante was relieved. But there was still something else. Something hidden behind the bravery. Fear. What are you afraid of now? Sofia asked softly, touching his hands. You said it's over. The danger is over, yes. Dante lowered his gaze, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. But what about you? Me? Now that you're safe. Now that you don't need me anymore. His voice faltered. Will you stay? The words hit her like a silent impact. And finally she understood. Dante wasn't afraid of the enemy. He wasn't afraid of the night. He wasn't afraid of the past. He was afraid of her leaving. That everything they had lived through was just survival. That without the danger, she would choose an easier life. Without him. Dante, Sofia said, holding his face between her hands. Do you really think I'm here out of fear? I don't know. The raw honesty hurt. "I turned your life upside down. I took your peace. And now that you can choose, I choose you." The words came out firm, without hesitation. He stopped, held his breath. "Not out of necessity," she continued. "Not out of fear. But because in these last few days, even with everything happening, I was happier than I've been in the last 8 years." Dante studied her, searching for doubt, searching for any sign of indecision. He found none. "Are you sure?" His voice was charged with something fragile, hope, almost disbelief. "If you stay, Sophia, it won't be easy. There are still things from my past, people who will judge, and I have shadows. I have flaws." "We all do," she said, stepping closer until her chest touched his. "But I prefer facing any shadow by your side than living any perfection without you." That was when something inside Dante broke. The wall. The fear. The loneliness he had carried forever. It all fell. And there before her wasn't the powerful businessman. Not the man trained not to feel. It was just Dante. Vulnerable. Human. In love. Completely hers. "I don't deserve you," Dante murmured, his forehead resting on hers, as if trying to anchor himself in that proximity. "It's not about deserving," Sophia replied, smiling through the tears that insisted on falling. "It's about choosing. And I choose this. I choose us." The kiss came as a release. It had none of the urgency of the last few hours, nor the desperation that had accompanied them from the start. It was another kind of intensity. Soft, deep, full of promise. His mouth met hers with reverence, as if touching something sacred. Dante's hands pulled her closer, keeping her with him, firm, as if the simple act of letting her be distant was impossible. And Sophia responded, wrapping her arms around his neck, feeling the warmth, the relief, the certainty of that reunion. When they separated, they were both trembling. "Bedroom," Dante said in a low voice, his lips still close to hers. There was need in his voice, but also care. "Now." Sophia simply nodded. Dante lifted her in his arms in an easy movement, as if his body simply knew what to do. She wrapped her legs around his waist, feeling his stifled laugh when they both lightly bumped into the hallway wall. "Anxious?" she teased, her voice lighter, as if for the first time in days she could breathe. "Desperate," he corrected, pressing a quick kiss to the corner of her mouth as he pushed the bedroom door open with his shoulder. 3 weeks without you. Really without you. 3 weeks waiting for this." He laid her on the bed with care, as if fearing she might unravel in his hands, and then he stopped, just to look, as if registering every detail. Her face, her loose hair, the moist shine in Sophia's eyes. "You are so beautiful," he said in a whisper that was more breath than voice. "Beautifully devastating." She blushed but didn't look away. Dante took off his jacket, then his shirt, revealing the strength of his body, the scars that told silent stories, fragments of a life he lived before meeting her. Sophia touched one of them delicately, and Dante closed his eyes for an instant, breathing deeply. When he lay over her, Sophia felt the comforting weight, the enveloping warmth, the care in the touch of his hands shaping her face. "I want to love you today," he said, with a sincerity that made her heart shudder. Not in a rush. Not like before, but slowly. "Show you how much you mean to me." She trembled at the words, at the promise contained in them. "Then, show me," she whispered, pulling him closer. Time dissolved. There was no rush, no fear. There was only them, connected, surrendered, learning each other without urgency, without escape. Every touch of Dante's was intention, every kiss, a silent request, every gesture, a confirmation of everything he couldn't put into words. And Sophia let herself go. She felt the warmth of his hands traveling over her skin, felt the safe weight of his body, felt the proximity that seemed to stitch together the broken pieces of her world. His gaze never fled from hers. Even in moments when she wanted to close her eyes, to feel without seeing. Dante called her back, soft, firm, present. "Look at me," he asked when she looked away, overcome by intensity. "I want you here with me. Now. Completely." And she looked. And in that gaze, in that silent meeting, there was everything. Surrender, reconciliation, promise, and love, finally without fear. She looked into his eyes, and the world simply ceased to exist. The rest disappeared. The breathing, the room, the night. Everything dissolved until only he remained. The connection, the intensity, the surrender. Her body was shaken by deep waves, almost impossible, while his voice called her back to that gaze. And Dante remained there, seeing every nuance, every broken breath, every emotion that crossed her face. And it was as if that moment belonged to both of them, because she had allowed it. She had chosen. She had surrendered completely, irreversibly. When it was his turn, when his body tensed over hers, when his eyes darkened in that almost wild intensity, Sophia pulled him close and whispered against his lips, "I love you." The 3 words she had held back out of fear, out of protection, out of not knowing what would come next. But in that instant, she wasn't afraid of anything anymore. Dante froze. His eyes studied her, as if he needed to ensure he wasn't hearing things, as if that confession were the only feat capable of bringing him down completely. "Say it again," he managed to say, his voice failing, charged with raw emotion. Sophia smiled, tears streaming silently. "I love you, Dante Marchesi. Completely. Madly. No turning back." That was where he broke. All the control, all the armor, all the strength built over years. He held her as if she were his anchor in the world, buried his face in her neck, and she felt, didn't imagine, his tears mixing with hers. "I love you," he repeated, voice choked. "I love you. I love you." And they stayed like that, intertwined, breathing together, 2 hearts that had finally found rest in one another. Later, when the world finally returned to its place, Sophia lay on his chest, gently tracing the scars marked there. "Tell me," she asked quietly, "about all of them." Dante held her hand, bringing it to his lips in a slow kiss. "Are you sure? You promised the truth." So he told her. About the fight that left a deep mark on his shoulder. About the accident that almost ended badly. About the night a blade almost took him from the world at 25. Hard stories, yes, but also stories of survival, of someone who had seen the worst and still chose to continue. "Do you regret it?" Sophia asked. "Leaving that world? Trying to build something clean?" "Never." The answer came firm, immediate. "Because if I hadn't left, I never would have found you. And you." He held her face with both hands, eyes charged with emotion. "You are the best thing that ever happened in my life." Sophia smiled, that smile that was born straight from the heart. "Even if I turned your life upside down, especially because you did." He kissed her lightly. "Before you, Sophia, I only existed. Now I live." And that changes everything. She propped herself up on her elbow, studying him. "And now? What happens now?" Dante spent a few seconds looking at her, in a way so soft, so sincere, it almost hurt. "Now we live. Simple, beautiful, definitive. You go back to work when you're ready. I continue with my clean businesses. We have dinner together, fight over nonsense, make plans. You introduce me to your parents." Sophia laughed, but the laugh came wet, carrying too much emotion to fit in her chest. "Are you ready for that? For you?" Dante pulled her face close. "Always." "My parents are going to hate you," Sophia laughed through lips still swollen. "Probably," Dante agreed with that predatory calm he called confidence. "But I will win them over. Eventually. So confident. When I know what I want. Always." He pulled her close, interlacing his fingers in her hair. "And I want you. Forever. If you let me. Forever. A word that used to scare her. Too big, too heavy. But there, in his arms, forever simply fit. Forever, she repeated, sealing the promise with a slow kiss. 3 months later, Sophia was at the office when the flowers arrived. White lilies, always lilies. He said they were strength disguised as delicacy. She said he was dramatic, but she smiled every time she received them. In the card, dinner at 8. Wear something beautiful. Love you. D. 3 months together, and Dante still sent flowers every week. Still picked her up from work. Still looked at her as if she were the only person who mattered. Life hadn't become a fairy tale. There were bad days. They argued. He was stubborn. She even more so. His past still cast shadows every now and then. But it was real. It was theirs. And Sophia wouldn't trade it for anything. Her phone vibrated. Dante. Thinking of you. Sophia smiled. Sophia. Always thinking of me. Do you ever work? Dante. Work is overrated. You are the priority. She laughed to herself. Sophia. See you at 8 then. Dante. Can't wait. Ti amo mio cuore. Sophia put away her phone and stared at the city through the window. 3 months ago, she thought her life was over. The end of an 8-year relationship. A night of escape. A dangerous stranger. A world she didn't understand. But that night had changed everything. It had brought Dante. It had brought love. It had brought a future she never imagined. And for the first time in her life, Sophia wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Because no matter what came, she wouldn't be alone. She would have his hands, his arms, a life beside him. And that was enough. It was everything. That night, when Dante knelt in the restaurant, with a diamond ring, teary eyes, and the whole world disappearing around them, and asked if she would spend the rest of her life with him, Sophia didn't hesitate. Yes. Simple. Absolute. Right. 1,000 times yes. And when he kissed her, right there in the middle of the restaurant, amidst applause and flashes, Sophia knew. That night at the eclipse, that impulsive, reckless, impossible choice had never been a mistake. It had been destiny, and she wouldn't change a single thing, because that night had led her to Dante, and Dante had led her to love, the kind of love that transforms, that heals, that breaks and rebuilds, the kind of love that is worth every fear, every risk, every leap in the dark. Because in the end, true love is never safe, but it is always, always worth it. The end.